Here we go.
This is the Skip Bayless Show, brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. I will get to the most bizarre win in the most bizarre NBA Finals I have ever watched, and I'll get to Russell Westbrook, 7 teams in 8 years, and I'll get to weird Dak quotes and to cartoon character Jerry Jones and to the U.S. closed golf tournament and to SGA, the underpublicized fashion goat of all of sports, and to criticism of Lil Wayne's Carter 6. I'll get to all that. But first up, the future of Kevin Durant. Next year, I see Kevin Durant in San Antonio. Allow me to explain. Now, as you might know, Kevin has blasted me for this opinion, and I have repeatedly offered him the opportunity, come on this show, refute me, which he's afraid to try because he knows deep down I am right about all I'm about to repeat. I believe he's mentally, psychologically, and emotionally semi-retired when it comes to prioritizing goals. He wants to continue to work hard on his craft as a shooter, but he no longer has as his primary goal leading a team to a championship. He was back-to-back finals MVP. He led Golden State to back-to-back championships on the court, even though he really wasn't much of an intangible leader for the Warriors, whose real leaders, of course, were Steph and Steve Kerr, and to some extent, Draymond Green. KD was no leader in Brooklyn, and he's been no leader in Phoenix, so it's no coincidence. His playoff record of 6-13 over the last 4 years is the worst postseason winning percentage of any player over that time span. The worst. Remember, the Celtics swept him and his Nets in his last playoff series in Brooklyn. And then he and his new team, the Suns, did manage to beat the Westbrook-led Clippers, who were mostly without Kawhi and completely without Paul George. That was 6 games. And once CP3 pulled his hamstring again, KD and company lost to Denver in 6. Remember that? Then KD and company got swept by Minnesota last year and fell 3 games short of the play-in this season. Even though KD did play 62 games this past season, this year's Suns went 36-46. What? Kevin Durant will turn 37 in September. But give him this. Kevin Durant did average 27, 6, and 4 this season. What's more, he has averaged at least 25 points on 50% shooting and 40% on three-pointers in 3 straight seasons. That's the longest streak ever in the NBA. This season, he did shoot an NBA best on jumpers. He was 49.7% on jump shots. And on mid-range shots, he shot 53.1%. It's extraordinary. That was the best. He also had the best shooting percentage on off-the-dribble jumpers. That was 50.9%. So bottom line, he doesn't really care much about playing defense like he used to. He doesn't have a burning desire to win championships like he used to. But does this 7-footer ever remain dedicated to a craft he has come as close to mastering as any player ever? That craft is jump shooting. That will still sell. So now, Have Gun Will Travel. That's a reference to a TV show that's probably way before your time. But Kevin Durant wants out of Phoenix as he knows that there's still a pretty robust market remaining for him out there. Yet, when I first saw his wish list, I immediately crossed off 3 teams. New York Knicks, Minnesota T-Wolves, Houston, those guys down there, the Rockets. No way he wants to be viewed as the savior for any of those 3 teams viewed as on the verge of winning their conference. Now, I know Mark Stein reported that the Knicks just aren't interested in Kevin Durant, probably because they they just don't have the cap flexibility or the trade assets to acquire and then sign him to a new 2-year deal at, I don't know, 50, 60 million. And maybe the Knicks are smart enough in one capacity to see what I'm seeing in Kevin Durant, semi-retired desire to win championships. But I also say there is no way Kevin Durant wants to inflict the pressure and expectations of the New York media on himself as the difference maker, as the game changer for the Knicks, as the best player on a team that's close. No way. Too smart for that. He's too cagey, if I can use a basketball term. He already did New York. He did Brooklyn. He did the Nets. Now, maybe he would consider Miami just because he wouldn't mind basing in South Beach. Miami would be the perfect place to semi-retire, wouldn't it? Expectations probably wouldn't be too high with the Heat. Certainly nothing like with the Knicks in New York City, Mecca, basketball, MSG. But the ideal last couple of seasons for Kevin Durant would be with the Spurs. With the Spurs. Very credible team on the rise without an immediate expectation of championships. In Victor Wembanyama's first 2 seasons, the Spurs were shockingly no factor at all, even though he was making an MVP case both times, really. And even though Stephon Castle was their second straight Rookie of the Year this past year. 22 and 60 in Wemby's first year. I kept saying, why isn't he impacting the scoreboard more? 34 and 48 last year. Even though they traded for De'Aaron Fox, and even though they had CP3 mentoring, quarterbacking, could have Chris Paul back again next season at age 40. They could have. But even if they do trade for KD, as I believe they will, would anyone out there pick the San Antonio Spurs to win a loaded West this coming season? This next season? No way. I mean, think about it. OKC, Minnesota, Denver, Golden State, Houston, Dallas, Lakers, Clippers. I think I just gave you the playoffs. I mean, would the Spurs even be picked to make the playoffs even with KD next season? Seriously, I asked you that question. So this is the perfect semi-retirement spot for Kevin Durant, semi-retired. He can be a big brother to Wemby, and he can pretty quietly work on his craft in small market, off radar San Antonio, with much of the focus on Wemby, with some of the focus on De'Aaron Fox. I mean, Kevin could sort of go along for a ride there for a couple of quiet, nice, pleasant, peaceful years. San Antonio, I love San Antonio. Great place to live. And do the Spurs ever have the assets to trade for Kevin Durant beginning this year with the number 2 overall pick and the number 14 pick in the first round? Seriously, would the Suns take this year's 14th overall straight up for Kevin? I don't know. Maybe they would. The Spurs also have a couple of more in next year's draft. They have a couple of more and then a couple of more. They're loaded with picks. This deal can easily get done. So, semi-retired Kevin Durant will be making historically efficient jump shots next season for the San Antonio Spurs. You heard it here first. Tell me I'm wrong, Kevin. Now, before my finals predictions, quick thought about the first 4 bizarre games, especially Friday night's most shocking fourth quarter I have ever witnessed. No exaggeration, ever witnessed in all my years, starting out here in Los Angeles in 1977 covering the Lakers. all my basketball years. Man, I got to tell you, seriously, I have searched my memory for anything like what happened Friday night when it comes to teams of mine, teams I was rooting for, my Cowboys, my Sooners, back in the day, my Spurs. Back in the Roger Staubach era with my Cowboys, he routinely pulled off miracle comebacks, but that was the point. Captain Comeback, Roger the Dodger, routinely pulled miracles out of his helmet, most notably the Hail Mary, the namesake, the original, in that freezing cold playoff game outdoors in Minnesota. Remember that? Pass to my man Drew Pearson, but then there were my Sooners back in the 1980s. Barry Switzer's Sooners were known for Sooner magic because of their comebacks against Nebraska and Oklahoma State. But every time, every single time, I expected them to come back. Spurs, back in the day, Duncan Parker Ginobili, never a big comeback team. They were as boring as broccoli, nature's most perfect food. I love broccoli. By the way, I love Diet Mountain Dew. Weird combination, but quick sip. Those Spurs back in the day were just boringly great. They would just grind you down and grind you up. I always expected them to win, but not from woefully, impossibly behind. So going into the fourth quarter, Friday night, in Caitlin Clark's house, with Caitlin Clark herself sitting in the front row, and with that Gainbridge crowd raising that roof, and the Pacers raining threes as the Thunder just kept missing and missing and missing and missing threes. No, I did not think the Thunder were going to win. I gave up on my hometown team because I'm not a brain-dead fool. I'm not blindly, dumbly loyal. Every factor screamed Pacers, Pacers, Pacers. Every sign prohibitively concluded the Indiana Pacers were going to win that game easily and head back to OKC with a 3-1 lead, and it was going to be curtains for my Thunder. After all, the Pacers had won the fourth quarter of Game 3 at Gainbridge, 32-18, as SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, had scored a grand total of 3 points in the fourth quarter of Game 3. Remember that? Wednesday night? So help me out here. What evidence did I have that the youngest team in the playoffs, my Thunder, were going to come back against the comeback kings, the Pacers, who had come back at least from at least 15 down? That was 4 times through the playoffs from at least 15 down. What? They were the team riding the magic carpet. They were the team that had caught fire right on time on the way to winning the franchise's first NBA championship. Yeah, I gave up, way up, completely, utterly up, gave in, gave out. Game over. Andrew Nembhard was in SGA's jock and in his head and deep into his psyche. Obviously, they knew each other from the time Nembhard was 7, SGA was 9. They played together on the Canadian team, national team, both from Canada. Nembhard just was intimidating SGA with physicality, just ruthless physicality, full court physicality, just wearing him down and out, 94 feet of no respect. Seriously, no respect, no fear. The Thunder were just being embarrassed on offense. Would you believe that the Thunder, who averaged 27 assists a game through the regular season, the all-time great regular season, were on their way on Friday night to totaling 11 assists because they had been taken completely out of their offense mostly by Nembhard on SGA. For these finals, the Thunder have averaged 16 assists in 4 games. Remember, they averaged 27. They just averaged one. That's their mean. 27 in the regular season. They've averaged against the Pacers defense 16 through 4 games. Think about that. They're getting shamed on offense. I thought the Thunder played the best defense I've ever seen an NBA team play. And all of a sudden, the Pacers are beating the Thunder at their own game defense. The Thunder were on their way to 11 total assists, in part because they were on their way to 3 of 17 from 3. No team had won a game making only 3 threes all NBA season long, regular and postseason. That's how bad it was for my Thunder on Friday night. 10 minutes left. Pacers up 7. They had 2 straight open looks from 3 to go up 10 points. Nesmith had one and Miles Turner had one. Miss. Stay of execution, I thought. They'll make another one next time down. Who would have predicted at that point that the Pacers were on their way to going 0 for 8 from 3 in the fourth quarter that they have owned throughout the playoffs? And that the Thunder would manage to make just 1 3 in the fourth, but it was the only 3 by either team in the fourth, and it was a huge one late by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But SGA didn't score a single point in the fourth until 4:38 remained. Suddenly he got loose down the middle for a finger roll. Jalen Williams came over and picked off Nembhard, so it was Nesmith on SGA. Finger roll. And I look up. And wait a second. That tied the score? I'd been so caught up in the Thunder missing all those threes, again, 2 for 16 at that point, that I'd lost track of the fact that the Pacers were on their way to 0 for 8 from 3 in the fourth quarter and 5 of 18 from the floor overall in the fourth quarter. That's impossibly bad, can't happen bad, was happening bad. What I'd failed to realize in the hopeless heat of that moment was that the Oklahoma City Thunder were finally playing the all-time great defense that propelled them to winning the stacked Western Conference by 16 games and to a record, 29-1 record, against the Eastern Conference. Then, at that moment, in the biggest shock to me, SGA turned back into the MVP. I couldn't comprehend. I couldn't process. I couldn't compute what was happening so quickly. SGA scored 15 points in the final 4 minutes and 38 seconds. But even more impressive, SGA scored 11 in the final 2:58. That's the most points scored in that span of any finals game in the last 50 years, happening right before my very wide eyes. What happened was, even though Nembhard, Canadian teammate, had his number, even though SGA was awful in the fourth quarter of Game 3, even though he missed the biggest shot late in Game 1 in Oklahoma City, even though SGA doesn't shoot logo threes like Steph or power dunk it like Ant-Man, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander flashed his extreme basketball character for all the NBA world to see. He just refused to lose. As cliche as that sounds, that's what happened. He snapped out of it and snapped Indy's momentum right in half. Suddenly, he was by far the best player on the floor, because he is. He saved the finals. He saved OKC from going 3-1 down. with the greatest late scoring salvo in finals history, and definitely the most shocking. Just when all seemed lost, at least to me, it's 2-2 with Game 5 tonight back in Oklahoma City. So I will restate what I said in my instant react video right after Friday night's game. In my career of covering the NBA, again, beginning out here in LA, 1977, I have never been more stunned by a fourth quarter. The Thunder won the fourth on Friday night, 31-17. That is impossible. The Thunder wound up covering the 6.5-point spread. Just impossible. If either Nesmith or Turner had hit those 3 attempts with 10 minutes left, the Thunder would have been down 16.5 points against the spread with 10 minutes to go. Impossible. Remember, the Pacers aren't some El Foldo team. They have no recent history of blowing leads. They didn't really blow this one. It got taken from them by the prohibitive favorites, the NBA's best team all year long by far, a team that finally played that way. Okay. Zip-a-doo. Now for my picks. And by the way, if you're ready to plunk down a few bucks on these ever more intriguing finals, the only place to start is FanDuel, the franchise. The Cowboys, Yankees, Lakers all rolled into one. You can find all the best player props on FanDuel. You can get the latest stats right inside the app. See who's consistently hitting the over, who's flirting with triple doubles. And once the game starts, it can really get interesting. When you combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big, hey, give FanDuel a shot now, today. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/skip. My name's Skip. FanDuel.com/skip to get started right here, right now. Okay. Word to the wise. I've been wrong on all 4 finals games. I'm just too close to this. I am from Oklahoma City, and I do love this Thunder team and have for 2 years. So think about this. OKC was favored by 9.5 in game 1 at home, and I predicted a cover. They were up 15 with 10 minutes left, and they lost the game outright. So game 2, when they were favored by 11.5, I thought, man, Pacers, enough momentum, enough confidence gained to at least cover that. And it was an OKC blowout. Game 3, I'm back on the OKC bandwagon, baby. They're favored by 5.5 at Indy. Okay, give me OKC. And Indy romped and stomped in the fourth quarter. Then Friday night, OKC favored by 6.5. Man, I was skeptical OKC could even win the game, so I took Indy at home. Most shocking rally I've ever witnessed. OKC did cover by 0.5 point, and I was wrong again. Okay, so originally I did pick Thunder in 5. Then I got carried away on the day of game 1. I did grow up in Oklahoma City, first 18 years of my life in OKC. So I amended to sweep. These Thunder were highly capable of sweeping these finals. But the truth is they haven't played anywhere near their nuclear capability until that fourth quarter of game 4. To me, these teams have a bizarre upside-down chemistry. The most likely outcome is the most least likely outcome. Upside down. So here's my biggest concern. As I kept saying through the Thunder playoff run, they smoke you with pot, with points off turnovers. They led the NBA by far in creating turnovers and scoring off those turnovers. And they've been even better at smoking you with POT in the playoffs than in the regular season until they ran into the Pacers. As we speak, in the first 4 games, the Pacers lead the Thunder in points off turnovers, 65-64. That's impossibly bad. That's a recipe for disaster. In total turnover so far, Pacers have coughed it up 70 times to just 56 for OKC. But remember, the Thunder turned over the Pacers 20 times in the first half of game 1. I'm like, here we go. In the last 3 games, OKC has coughed it up 49 times to just 45 for Indy. The Pacers have greatly impressed me with their utterly unselfish ball and man movement on offense, their high motion offense. They create open shots against OKC's defense better than any team has all season. Trust me, I watched every game. And I have been, as I pointed out, dumbfounded and shell-shocked over how much better the Pacers' defense is than I thought it was. They relentlessly full-court press, just wear SGA out, and they don't seem to ever get tired. Thunder have often had a hard time just getting the ball in bounds. Have you noticed? Just can't even get the ball in bounds. Man, I thought the Thunder had the NBA's deepest team. I said it all season long, but the Pacers have been matching them in that department also. OKC has no answer for little PJ McConnell. And in game 3, they had no answer for Mathurin. So do I think my Thunder have broken through against the Pacers? I honestly don't. I see the Thunder winning a close game 5 at home. No way do I think they can cover 9.5. And I can't tell you how much I hope I am wrong again. If the Thunder do win tonight, do I think they can come back and win another game in Indy as a, 6.5 or 7-point favorite? I honestly do not. So right now, all my signs are pointing to OKC in 7 at home, as they did with a blowout of the Nuggets at home in a game 7. So give me Pacers plus 9.5 tonight. Give me Thunder in 7 to win the NBA championship. FanDuel.com/skip. Go there now. One other quick word before I proceed with Dak Prescott's latest weird comments. Quick word about protein bars, because Ernestine and I live on protein bars. She always has a couple in her purse. I always take 3 or 4 with me every time I play golf. So we know what we're talking about when it comes to protein bars, and we have been shocked by how good David protein bars are. Very high in protein. I can't get enough protein, but very low in calories. Ernestine and I are hooked on the blueberry and the chocolate fudge. Peanut butter is very good. To me, they're just as good as any candy bar I've ever had. And does David ever have a deal for my viewers and my listeners? Because you right now can buy 4 cartons and get the 5th free. That's at davidprotein.com/my name's Skip, SKIP. That's David Protein altogether, davidprotein.com/skip to get your 5th carton free. Humans aren't perfect, but David is. Okay, now. Yep. On the Breakfast of Champions. Dak Prescott says a lot of hard-to-figure things, as does his owner, the man who has paid Dak way too much money for way too long. So look, I'm trying to get back on the Cowboy bandwagon for this season. I do like the way their schedule sets up this season, and I'm frankly tired of being the bearer of bad news, of painful truth about the team I have loved with all my heart and all my soul since I was 10 years of age. But here we go again. Sometimes I wish both Jerry and Dak would just put a sock in it. Just say as little as possible to the media. But of course, it's written in the United States Constitution that the owner and quarterback of America's team must speak publicly, even if they often leave many of us scratching our heads over what they just said very publicly. Huh? I especially wish Dak Prescott would avoid answering any question about winning the Super Bowl, because we all know he's never going to win a Super Bowl. He's 2-5 in the postseason. He's never even made it to a conference championship game. So Dak, why even go there? Why fumble and stumble through another nonsensical answer about winning a Super Bowl? Just leave it alone, Dak. And I don't know, maybe one day you'll accidentally back into winning a Super Bowl. Just leave it alone. So this is what Dak said last week after the Cowboys concluded their offseason program, and I quote, "Yeah, I want to win a championship. The legacy, the things, whatever comes after you finish playing will take care of itself. I want to win a championship. Be damned if it's just for my legacy or if it's for this team, for my personal being, for my sanity. Yeah, the legacy will take care of itself. I have to stay where my feet are," said Dak Prescott. Okay, so I've thought a lot about every line of this quote, and maybe this quote just went right over my head. Or maybe this quote is so deep it went right under my head. I don't know, but I ask, Dak, if you don't want to, okay, think about this. If you don't want to win a Super Bowl for your legacy or for this team, then what do you want to win a Super Bowl for? If it's not for your personal being or for your sanity, if it's not because you have a burning desire, a rage, a monomaniacal drive to win a Super Bowl, then what exactly does motivate you, Dak? Are you just talking to hear yourself talk? Dak, are you starting to turn into Brick and Anchorman, who just looks around the room, sees a lamp, and says, "I love lamp"? Is that you, Dak? I love lamp. I love lamp. I love lamp. So you conclude by saying your legacy will take care of itself. Well, actually, you need to take care of it. Then you say, I have to stay where my feet are. You do? I mean, Dak, you could actually blaze a new trail. You could become the first Cowboy quarterback to win a Super Bowl in 30 years. Staying put and standing pat are exactly what you don't want to do, unless you're actually deciding now at this stage of your career that you're perfectly content with the $250 million Jerry Jones has paid you already and the $60 million a year he's on the hook to pay you for the next 3 years, each of the next 3 years. Dak, Jerry twice made you the highest paid player in the league. Twice he did. Even though you're 2-5 in the playoffs with two scary bad stinkers, home and away, against those rival in the conference 49ers, a franchise Roger Staubach beat in a classic playoff comeback at San Francisco, and Troy Aikman beat in a classic playoff upset at San Francisco. I don't know, Dak. Truth is, back to Anchorman, what Ron Burgundy said to Veronica Corningstone about San Diego actually made more sense to me than your quote about the Super Bowl. You remember this in Anchorman? Ron Burgundy told Veronica, discovered by the Germans in 1904, they named it San Diego, which of course in German means a whale's vagina. Dak, please, no more Super Bowl quotes. Just Leave it alone. Thank you. Okay, speaking of Jerry Jones, would you believe he'll now be a cartoon character? Now, wait, a lot of people think he's been a cartoon character for a long, long time, but no, he'll now be a real live, so to speak, cartoon character on Adult Swim, the adult oriented programming block on the Cartoon Network. The show will be called Keeping Up with the Joneses, and it's created by some of the writers behind Robot Chicken. Jones Robot Chicken. This show will follow the Newberry family as the Newberries try to keep up with their staggeringly wealthy Dallas neighbors, and Jerry Jones just happens to live next door to the Newberries. Now, Jerry will not voice his character, an actor will, but still, I never could have fathomed how famous Jerry Jones would become when I first met him soon after he bought the team in 1989. At that point, Jerry Jones was seen as Jethro Jones, the hick from the Arkansas Sticks, about to screw up the Dallas Cowboys. Look at this man now. Remember his cameo with Billy Bob Thornton, my guy? John Hamm during season 1 of Landman stole that show. Coming in August is the Netflix doc that I believe will be even bigger than the Last Dance doc on Michael Jordan's 1998 Bulls. This one's called America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys. It's all about the Cowboys dynasty of the 90s, and the star of it from start to finish is Gerald Wayne Jones. I know this because I was interviewed for about 5 hours for this documentary. That's because of the 3 books I wrote about those Cowboys in 1990, 1993, and 1996. Or should I say, those 3 books wrote themselves. I did spend countless hours interviewing Jerry for each of those 3 books. They were controversial. Jerry loves controversy. I can't wait for The Gambler. Jerry Jones has become the most famous sports owner in sports history, even though his team hasn't sniffed an NFC championship game in 30 years. Go figure. Heck, I can't wait to watch Keeping Up with the Joneses on Adult Swim. I promise to review the first episode. I'm afraid it will be even more entertaining than watching Jerry's 2025 Cowboys. Ugh. Okay, quick thought about Sunday's U.S. Open finish at Oakmont. I love golf, but I did not love watching that golf. I don't want to watch a course play so hard that it makes the best players in the world look like me trying to hack it out of the rough or the barranca or the sand or 4-putting at Brentwood Country Club out here in Los Angeles. After a while on Sunday, it just got pathetically silly. In the final twosome, 3rd-round leaders, Sam Burns shot 78, and Adam Scott, I picked him to win on Sunday, he shot 79. Both were reduced to needing a sickle to dislodge balls from the high, wet rough. Oakmont became Croakmont. I was afraid one of the players, maybe 5'8" J.J. Spawn, who eventually won, would get lost in the rough and never found. This U.S. Open was the U.S. closed, if you love golf the way I love golf. I was reminded of the classic quote from former USGA President Sandy Tatum, which was, "Our goal is not to embarrass the best players, but to identify them." On this day, on Sunday, USGA, you embarrassed them. And I was embarrassed watching them. Again, the eventual winner, J.J. Spaun, bogeyed 5 of his first 6 holes and won the U.S. Open. Embarrassing. I swear J.J. made the only 2 putts outside of 15 feet I saw all day long on 14, and then his 65-foot Hail Mary that ended it like a lightning bolt in the rain that was falling and made J.J. the only player left under par for the 4 days at 1 under par. That won the U.S. Open. Stout little J.J. did play beautifully after the rain delay and did hit the shot of the tournament, a power faded tee shot on the par 4 17th that sniffed the cup. Left him an easy 2-putt birdie. I guess I appreciated that shot even more because, well, JJ was the last man standing. All I had. Now I cannot wait for this week's Travelers at a course in Connecticut I used to belong to, TPC River Highlands. I played there when I was at ESPN for all those years. I want to see some golf shots this week. I want to see some birdies. I'm always amazed by how many birdies are always made on that TPC course, River Highlands, that used to kick my butt. Okay. Allow me this quick thought on SGA MVP off the court. Off the court. I read a great story the other day in the Wall Street Journal about what an international fashion icon Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has become. I mean, this man has walked the runways in Paris, not Paris, Texas, Paris, France. Here's a quote I read from, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Ian Pierno. He runs Slam Magazine's outfit tracking Instagram account called @LeagueFits. Maybe you know it. Here's the quote. He is like our Tom Brady, our Michael Jordan. At this point, he's kind of the unheralded GOAT of sports fashion in general. The unheralded GOAT of sports fashion in general. And it's a great story. You should look it up and read it. I'm thinking, why unheralded? I mean, he did win MVP. Unheralded, how? Why? So I knew of his fashion sense, but I didn't know a lot about it. And he's definitely not known for it, not yet. This is the first I'd read of SGA being the GOAT of sports fashion. Did read a story a couple of days back on ESPN. It was about his fashion sense, but it was combined. He shared the stage with Tyrese Halliburton, who, by the way, is not in SGA's fashion universe, but really Hallie got a little more of that story than SGA did. SGA and his fashion sense are the best kept secrets in these finals. And I keep asking this question. Somebody out there, please explain to me, why doesn't SGA catch fire and catch on as a superstar? I mean, again, he won the MVP. I thought he deserved it. Is it because he is from Canada? Is it because he does play in the 47th ranked TV market in the country in Oklahoma City? I mean, when Russ played in Oklahoma City, he was the tunnel MVP when it came to fashion, right? That's all I heard and read about. Russ's fashion choices. And yet Russ, to me, was never in SGA's fashion galaxy. Neither was LeBron. Neither was D. Wade back in the day. So help me out. Why doesn't SGA break out, break through? Why doesn't he resonate? Is he just too Chanel? No. Is he just too Converse? Is he too smooth? Is he too nice? Is he too emotionless? Not enough edge? Maybe. Keep bringing up. Doesn't shoot logo threes, doesn't power dunk. It's all finesse up off the glass, but nobody attacks the basket statistically more than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm not objective. I'm from OKC. All I know is that I do believe in SGA on and off the court, at the free throw line and on the runway. Now, speaking of Russ, I was frankly very surprised the other day when Russell Westbrook opted out of his Nuggets deal. Player option for next year. Only paid him, I guess, around $3 million for next season. Mark Stein did report that Russ may re-sign with the Nuggets. Maybe he's hoping for a little more money. But it's also possible Russ and his agent believe he'll be a hotter commodity on the open market. If that's true, Russell Westbrook, think about this, will join his 7th team in 8 seasons. How many slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famers in their career on 7 teams in 8 seasons? I don't know. He may have enough left that it could be 8 and 9, 9 and 10 for all I know. But for me, it's just hard to believe that yet another team will want Russell Westbrook. It's hard for me to believe that the Nuggets will now really want him back, even though Mike Malone, the former coach, actually loved him as much as any coach he's ever played for. Gave him his best home in 7 years. Regular season, Russ played 75 games. That's pretty great. He started 36 games for the Denver Nuggets this past regular season. He averaged 28 minutes a game. Not bad. And he is 37 November 12th with arthritic knees that he has to ice in between stints on the floor. So he had a pretty great year, all things considered. Regular season, he went 13, 5, and 6. He shot 45% from the floor. For him, that is high. 32% from 3. It's pretty pathetic, but for him, high. 66% from the free throw line is his usual abominable. Though his turnovers per minute were still among the worst in the league. Don't get me started. Then came the playoffs under a new coach, David Adelman. He fell to 24 minutes, didn't start a game. Stats fell a little bit to 12, 4, and 3. He shot only 39% of the floor. That won't work. Another 32% from 3. It's pretty sorry, except by Russ standards. And he did improve slightly to 70% from the free throw line in the playoffs. But Game 7, Oklahoma City, back in his old stomping grounds, 5:07 left. Nuggets up 21-10. Nuggets were up 21-10 in Game 7 at OKC. From that moment he first stepped foot on the court, Oklahoma City won the rest of the game 115-72, as Russ was a minus 34 in 22 minutes. The truth was, Russ saved me. The truth was, Russ deserved a game ball for that Game 7. The truth was, Russ, who's been instrumental in helping rebuild downtown Oklahoma City as an advisor, still is, an advisor to refurbishing, revitalizing what's called Bricktown in downtown Oklahoma City. The truth is, I think Bricktown was named for Russ and his shooting, West Brick. But you know what happened? 3 of those 4 seasons, he averaged triple-doubles. First year, he broke through and averaged a triple-double when I thought no human ever would. He won MVP. He plays hard. You can argue harder than any point guard has ever played. But 4 times he's led this league in turnovers. 4 times he's finished second in turnovers, and he has routinely been the worst three-point shooting guard in the league for, what is he up to now? 17 seasons. I had an argument the other day. It was good-natured but high-spirited. An argument with a former NBA All-Star who just loves Russ, just blindly loves him because he plays so hard. Players love Russ because he plays with such attitude, such ferocity, such every single second intensity. But so often on offense, Russ just careens completely out of control. I mean, LeBron wanted him badly and then badly wanted him gone. Joker wanted him badly in Denver. And I'm wondering now if Joker really and truly wants him back. Okay. I finish with this. It's about my brother, Lil Wayne. Wayne Michael Carter Jr. I've seen some criticism out there on the internet of Carter 6. I've also seen avalanches of appreciation for his career impact, for his ever-growing legacy, for his GOATness, because he is the greatest of all time. So look, step back for a moment. Here's what happens when you've been as great as Wayne has for as long as Wayne has been great. You can't top you. Your longtime diehard fans are going to hang on to, cling to the songs that were milestones in their lives, that changed their lives, that they will always associate with some kind of the greatest moment of their lives. Hey, I'm still that way with Carter 3. I'm still clinging to it because that's when I got to know Wayne, just as that album was taking off, and it took me off. I never got over it. I do think 6 eventually will be regarded as great, maybe even as a masterpiece, because it's just so different. Wayne is not going to give you a replica of 3 or of 4. He is going to blaze new, unimaginable trails. He is going to go deeper and deeper, farther and farther. He's going to just keep fearlessly creating, whether you like it or not. He's not going to just keep playing the hits, keep duplicating the hits, keep tweaking the hits, and repackaging the hits for you. Nope, nope, nope. Wayne is going to plunge. I know I'm not objective when it comes to Wayne, and I'm certainly no expert when it comes to rap. But to me, The Days is a great song featuring Bono. Bono? What? Cotton Candy is a great new, catchy, creative, fun song with 2 Chainz. I love 2 Chainz. But I don't know. What do I know? Well, I do know this. I do know rock and roll. I know the Rolling Stones. I thought the Beatles were slightly better, but Beatles broke up. Stones in their 80s are still able to sell out 100,000 seat arenas all over the world. All over the world. Talk about greatness. Talk about longevity greatness. Whew. Eat your heart out, LeBron. Yet, the Stones' lifelong diehard fans pretty much rejected every album the Stones made after, I'd say, 1981's Tattoo You. They made 8 more albums. Their oldest fans were just hanging on to the hits and said no, no, no to the last 8 albums. Trust me on this. Wayne has never worked harder on an album than he did on 6. Never worked harder. You just got to take my word for it. As I told him, I know how hard you worked on that album. You know how hard you worked on that album. God knows how hard you worked on that album. That's all that can matter. I told him, just keep touring, keep performing, and keep creating, keep breaking the sound barrier. I told him your lifelong diehard fans will eventually come around and they'll eventually catch back up. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Tyler Korn for producing, to Ernestine for overseeing, and to Hazel for approving.